this lesson, we will see how to configure an screen so that we can reuse some items and in a way that we can handle collections of items in our screen. For our example, here we have a screen that has that represents a formulary that we will build. A formulary used to apply or request a loan. The basic fields that we will use are the bank account number that the user must fill in. From that information, we can get with an endpoint we can get the name of the client and other personal information. The client needs to fill the loan type that he wants to request. I mean, if the loan is for a small business, it's a home equity or whatever, and the amount that the client is requesting. Additionally, we will need to add the list of up to 3 guarantors, and for every guarantor we will need to register their name, a phone, and an address. So for that we will use a loop. What is a loop? A loop is a component that will allow us to repeat a set of controls. For example, here, as I was saying before, we will need to register 3 fields for every guarantor. So here we will put a column, and using the JSON format for the columns, I will change, or I changed it already, the columns and their width. And well, now we have 3 spaces. So we need to add for every, as I was saying, for every guarantor, their name, the full name, phone, and an address. And well, we have modified all the 3 fields with their corresponding variable names and labels: name, phone, and address. If we go to the loop, for the moment the variable is called loop1, and here we can see the number of loops or the number of elements that the loop will have, in this case 3. We go to preview to see how the screen will be rendered. We can see here that the 3 fields that we added are repeated 3 times, because that's the number that we set here. If we change here to 4 or 5, we'll see the corresponding number. And here we had set the data source as a new array of objects. What it means, that means that if this variable does not exist, will be created and will be iterated 5 times in this case to create the 5 elements that are configured. Let us to return to 3 items, and let's see what happens if we put this. We put this, we will see that nothing is displayed. That's because the loop1 variable does not exist in our request data. That can be simulated adding here, for example, some data for our loop, in this case an array. So the source that it is used for or by a loop is always a data source. In this case, the array that is related to our loop is not created automatically. So this is empty. But if we add an array with the same name of our variable, the variable that we are using for loop, that as we have seen before, it's called loop1, we can add the elements that will be used for every loop item. And let's see what happens when we write here. If we write something here, the guarantor name is set. The guarantor font is set. This is the first object, as you can see, and this is another address. And if we fill the next item, that has everything in num, the names will be updated correspondingly. And another option that we have with loops, I will set this to array of objects, set to 3 again, is the possibility to add or that the user can add an additional items to the loop. For example, if we set here this value and we go here, we will see that now there are 2 buttons at the bottom that the user can use to add items to our loop. So in this way we can allow to the user to add guarantors and at will. So in that way we can use loops to repeat something that we want to some elements that we want to reuse a number of times. One of the problems that we can have using loops is, especially if we are using this option, is that yes, as a user I can add items and I can remove them, but we can remove it or we can remove every item just in order. I mean, the last item will be removed. If I press here, the last item will be removed. I'm not able to remove specifically this row, for example. I need to remove in order from the last to the first. So that's one of the limitations of if we use a loop. Now I will add a title here to specify that this section is related or is requesting to fill the guarantors. For that I will use a rich text. I will use a title, a heading 5 for example, and here I will write our label. Now if we look to preview, we can see that the section can be seen clearly there. Now we will add another section. Every loan application can have, in our case, we will be able to, or the client will be able to select many loans amounts. I mean, this information that we have here can be used more than one time, and the client will be able to select different loan types and amounts. So to do that, we will show how to use another element that allows to work with collections of data in screens. This element is called a record list. I will drag here the record list, and for the record list, a difference with the difference with loops is that the record list needs to point to a specific screen, while the loop draws or renders all the controls that are displayed or that are configured here, the times of that are configured here. The screen, the record list needs a screen because it shows the information in tabular way and use a pop-up to fill and to edit the information. So we need to move all these informations, these two things, to a screen. We will do that creating a new screen in our, or sus, we will create a sub-screen within our main screen. That can be done here, pressing the add button here. So we will add what we call a new page. We will save it, and here we can have the same information that we specified. For example, we will use this kind of distribution of information. We will add here line input, or line input. Sorry, here we will use a multi-select, a select list. Sorry. Here I want the labels here, so I will use the rich text also here for the labels. And now I will configure the select list, the rich text, and so. So the labels are configured. The width of these two columns is a bit large in this case, so I will change that here. I will specify that the width is 2 and 10. So well, we will have a better distribution to show the label and the element. So I don't want the label above the control, so I will remove from here, from this field, the text. And finally I will configure the select list using a set of JSON objects. I will set edit as JSON, and I will paste the JSON information for the select list. And we must set the correct variable names. Here we have long type and long amount. And for this we will set a decimal or currency data type, so we can restrict the input for that field. Additionally, we'll add a rule that this field is required and this other field is also required. Sorry. Required. Now we will return to our main screen and to our main page really, and we need to configure now our record list. Our record list will be associated to a variable, as the loop was associated to a variable 2. We will change this variable name to loan applications. This is the field, the name of the field, the label really. that, well, this is the label that will be displayed here for the section. And now we need to configure the record list. We need to define a screen that will be used by our record list. In this case, I will use the page that I've just created, loans. So let us see how the things are displayed. So here's the section of the record list, and here we can see that the record list is empty and or contains no data. So, well, we need to a way to allow the user to add items to our record list in this case. So for that we need to specify that this record list is editable, and if we go to preview, we will see that this button is enabled now. If we press here, the page that we have configured before is displayed. As you can remember, I've added these two fields as required. They have this validation, and well, let's see what happens. I will add this item. Okay, here I can see that there is an item, but no information is displayed. What is happening is that if we look at the data preview, we can see that the loan applications that represents the information of all the record list, this variable is storing an array with one item. This item has a loan type, a loan amount, and a row ID that will identify uniquely this row. This number is generated automatically, so it's something that works behind the scenes. But the variables that were configured by the user are this. So we need a way to configure how the information will be displayed here for every row. That is done here. In this section, we go to Designer, pressing over or selecting the record list. We can see here that there is a section in the inspector. This section is called columns. These columns are the columns that will be displayed here. In these columns, the columns that we can set here are some or all the columns that are or all the variables that are defined used or that are used in this page, the page that is used by the record list. So let's see how we can configure this. What we need is to specify the column header that will be displayed and the variable that will be used for that column. In this case is the loan type and the loan amount. We will press save or update, and well, here are defined all the columns that we want to display. Let's see in preview how this works. I will press add, I will select type, I will add an amount, and now yes, the information is displayed. Look that this number is the number that is stored here. If we add more items, well, they will be displayed accordingly. But what if we want to format something here? For example, I would like to add the $sign or symbol here to show that it's an amount. The variable that is stored here is this number, and as you can see, this number does not include the $sign, of course, because it's what is stored is the value, the numeric value. So what we can do is to use mustache syntax to format or to adapt the output that we want based on our variable. If we add the mustache syntax here, what will happen is that this expression will be evaluated and the value of this variable will be replaced. And while in this case nothing different will happen. I mean, the loan amount will come here and will be rendered by mustache. So it's equivalent in this case to this, because here we are using directly the variable, but with mustache syntax we are saying that we want to evaluate this expression or the values that are inside the brackets and the curly brackets, and to see and to render that result. In this case, the effect is the same. So if we do this and I add an item here, well, the same result is displayed because it's equivalent. But the good thing about this is that we can add something like this. If we want the dollar sign, for example, we can do this. What will happen is that all this expression will be evaluated, loan amount will be replaced here, and this string that is hard-coded there will be rendered too. So let's see what will happen. Okay, as you can see, the dollar's symbol is rendered too. Well, in that way we have shown how collection of data can be handled with our screens. We have two controls that can be used. One is loops and the other one is record lists.